I'm making vegan jerky. And I bet you didn't know such a thing existed. I didn't either. And then one day, oh man, I didn't bring the package with me. I'll show you the package later on that I found when my husband wanted to go to the Jerky Shack. I said, oh God, let's see what's in there. There's some nuts, there's some dried fruit, and what do you know, there's some vegan jerky. So I got it, and it was, as the package promised, strangely addictive. So I said, this is a little too far out of the way for me to go driving to get all the time, but I feel like I want to have this in my house. So I looked at the package, I looked at the ingredients, and I made my first batch. It was so-so. I had the flavor right, but I had the texture just a little bit wrong. So I'm going to try again today, and I'm taking you along on the journey. So I'm starting with 4 pieces of raw nori, and that is seaweed. And this is what you use to make sushi. But today we're using it as the base for our vegan jerky. Then inside the vegan jerky, we are putting, I've diced up 8 apricots and I've soaked them overnight in, let me see the measurements, 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and a teaspoon of sesame oil. So all of that soaked overnight, and then I am adding to that, this is just 1 button mushroom chopped up, but I'm going to call it about a 1/4 cup, and 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. So these ingredients are all going to go into the food processor, and they're going to blend for about a minute, so I'll be right back. So here it is. It's still got a little bit of definition. You can still see the pieces a little bit. Yes, that says Queen of the Kitchen, and yes, that's who I am. Somebody else gave it to me, though, who recognized that I was Queen of the Kitchen. I think it was my friend Alice. So we're going to put this all together, scrape it all into one big lump, and then divide it so that we know about how much we're putting on each of those sheets. But before we do that, we are going to oil these sheets. And if you've got a pastry brush, you can certainly use that. I'm just going to use the back of this spoon and make sure that the oil evenly coats it. The last time I did this, I had put the oil onto the parchment paper, and I've got the oven preheated to 325, and I've got parchment paper on a baking sheet. You could probably put it directly onto the baking sheet, but I just like to use the parchment paper just in case it sticks. You never know. And as I said, the last time I did this, I put it onto the parchment paper directly, and it just like separated, and not every piece was evenly coated, and therefore it did not get as crispy. So that was the downside. So this, I think, is going to make a difference. Well, we will find out. This probably would go faster with a pastry brush, but for some reason, whenever I have a pastry brush, mice come into my kitchen. It's the weirdest thing. We had no mice in the house all winter, and in past years, when I've had a pastry brush, they come into the kitchen and they eat my pastry brush. Maybe it's the delicious butter that it's been dipped in, I don't know. But whatever the case, I no longer have a pastry brush, and I can live without it. Because you can just as easily use a spoon or a spatula. Now, we are going to flip these over so that the oiled side is down. Just like that. And now, we're going to spread the mixture. So I got one for this one, and one for this one. This one looks a little smaller, so everything that I scrape out of here is going to go on the second one. This is between the apricots and the coconut aminos and then the apple cider vinegar. It's sweet and salty, and then the mushroom gives it that meaty mouthfeel. It's really good. And here is the company that makes it, Okura. So if you can find this, go buy it because it's delicious. If you can't, you can make your own, just like me today in the kitchen. So I'm spreading this out evenly. And it's going to be a really thin layer. I'm going to take it close to the edge, but not entirely, because there's one more step in this process. I'm going to be slicing it up into little pieces. And when I do that, it's going to seal it. So I'm going to use kitchen scissors for that to help seal it up. I guess I could use a pizza cutter. I don't know how well that would cut through the nori, because the nori is going to get soft as we're doing this. That's pretty good on that one. Now here's this one. I try to always let you see what I'm doing, but my kitchen is not a studio. If it was, then you'd be able to see everything I'm doing. But you're here in my kitchen with me and my phone, and sometimes my dogs, and sometimes a cat, whoever happens to pass through, sometimes my grandson, sometimes my husband. You never know who's going to go walking through, or even be a guest. Anything can happen. Just like life, right? There we go. Okay, so it's not perfect. I mean, there's little gaps here and there, and that's okay. Next, we're taking the other two pieces, pressing them down, and that's going to help to spread it out a little better. There we go. So that's 4 pieces of nori in total. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the oil on top of these also. Toss that in the sink. A little oil here. Go a little faster now. And so this is 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. I like avocado oil because it can take the heat and it's good for you. I never ever use like canola oil. That generally is a GMO type of oil. Not a big fan of using olive oil because really olive oil is a good olive oil is packed with all kinds of polyphenols that get destroyed in the baking process. So I saved that for my salad, having it raw. So we have a little bit left over. And now we're going to take this, cut it into slices. And it cuts really easily. The last time I did this, I just folded it. Yeah, that works nice. Does not have to be perfect, don't worry. And then you can just double it and go like that. So you're looking for about 5 strips per But if you want more, you can do more. If you want less, I wouldn't go too much thicker though. Now I'm cutting these into thirds, and I'm going to lay them out. And they're going to bake in the oven for about 5 minutes on each side. I'm going to say 5 to 7 minutes because it depends on your oven. You want them to be crispy. That's the whole thing. That's what we're going for. And I'm going to separate those last two, and I'll finish cutting up the second one, and I will be back, and we'll see how delicious it is. I did the full 7 minutes on each side, and you can see how crispy they are. I've got some of them still cooling on the tray, and I topped it off with a little bit of sea salt and some sesame seeds. I think the next time I do this, I might put the sesame seeds on it when they go into the oven. I think toasted sesame seeds would really be good. Can you hear the crunch? Oh, that is so good. And there's a lot of it here. Now, let me just drop them all onto the plate. You can see this beautiful pile. Mmm. Vegan jerky. It takes a little bit of time. It's a couple different steps, but what an unusual and delicious snack. So if you want to buy it already made, go here. They've got a website, or make it yourself. Either way, vegan jerky is a thing. So enjoy. It's on my website, healthyfoodscientist.com.